organ of an hearing. Today we'll study the ear and auditory pathway. The ear is an organ of hearing. It is also concerned in maintaining equilibrium of the body. It consists of three parts: the external ear, the middle ear, and the internal ear. The external ear consists of the auricle or pinna and the external acoustic meatus. So there are two parts. Totally, ear is divided into three parts: the external ear, the middle ear, and in internal ear. Okay. Ear maintains the it's a hearing organ. Along with it maintains the equilibrium of the body, means it maintains the balance, the coordination of the body. Okay. Now external ear consists of two parts: the auricle, or which is called as this pinna, and the external acoustic meatus, means the part which is present outside. Okay. Now there is the external ear. Now the external ear consists of the external or the outer ear consists of the auricle, the external auditory canal, and the eardrum. Okay, these three part is present in the external or the outer ear. Now, the auricle or pinna is a flap of elastic cartilage shaped like the flared end of a trumpet. Like this is our external ear. It is shaped like a trumpet, flared end of a trumpet, and covered by skin. The rim of the auricle is the helix, and the inferior portion is the lobule. This is the helix and the lobule. This auricle, helix, and the lobule. The ligaments and muscles attached to the auricle is to the head. The external auditory canal is a curved tube about 2.5 centimeter long that lies in the temporal bone and leads to the eardrum. Okay, this external auditory canal is 2.5 centimeter long. Okay, and it's in the temporal bone. You can see the external acoustic meatus when we are reading the cranium. There is a hole in the temporal bone of the cranium, which is the external acoustic meatus, and that leads to the eardrum. Okay, now the tympanic membrane or the eardrum is a thin transparent partition between the external auditory canal and the middle ear. Okay, the eardrum or pan like drum. Okay, it's a semi-transparent partition between the external auditory canal and the middle ear, which is also called as in normal language, जिसमें हम उसको कहते हैं पर्दा, कान का पर्दा, उसको हिंदी में जो हम normal language में बोलते हैं. ठीक है. Now this the tympanic membrane is covered by epidermis and lined by simple cuboidal epithelium. Okay, between the epithelium layer, this is the lining of your tympanic membrane. Okay, now between the epithelium layers is connective tissue composed of collagen, elastic fibers, and fibroblasts. And this tearing of the tympanic membrane is called perforated eardrum. It may be due to pressure from the cotton swab, trauma, or middle ear infection. Usually heals within a month. Okay, when the tympanic membrane is perforated, it will heal within a month. The perforation may be because of many causes, may be of any of the causes, like because of the pressure from the ear, cotton swab, or trauma, or middle ear infection, which heals within a month. Now, the tympanic membrane may be examined directly by otoscope. The instrument is called otoscope, by which the ENT specialists check the ears. Those instruments are called as otoscopes. Okay, and viewing instrument that illuminates and magnifies the external auditory canal and tympanic membrane. Now, near the opening, the external auditory canal contains few hairs. Okay, and specialized sweat glands called ceruminous glands, which secretes the earwax. The earwax is the secreted by, or that is also called cerumen. Cerumen, or this is secreted by the ceruminous glands. Now, the combination of hairs and cerumen helps prevent dust and foreign body to keep to objects from entering the ear. So these hairs and this wax helps the helps in preventing the dust and foreign body to enter the ear. Okay, cerumen also prevents damage to the uh, delicate skin of the external ear canal by water and insects. Okay, this also prevents the damage of delicate skin of the external ear canal by water and insects. And cerumen usually dries up and falls out of the ear canal. As we clean up the from the cotton buds, the ear, this external acoustic material gets cleaned up. Okay. However, some of people produce a large amount of cerumen which can become impacted and can muffle incoming sounds. Some individuals, this serum production is much more in ears, so there is some problem in hearing or in incoming sounds. The treatment of impacted cerumen is usually periodic ear irrigation or removal of wax with a blunt instrument by trained medical practitioner or the ENT specialist. They treat the treatment of impacted cerumen is usually by periodic ear irrigation or removal of wax. Usually we remove wax at home only, but sometimes when there is infection or there is some problem in hearing, when you go to ENT specialist, at that time they remove this wax and impacted cerumen and clean up your this auditory pathway. So this is about the external auditory pathway. Okay, now next come to the middle ear. Now what is there in the middle ear? So middle ear is air-filled cavity in the petrous portion of the temporal bone that is lined by epithelium. Okay, and it is separated from the external ear by a tympanic membrane and from internal ear by a thin bony partition. Okay, this middle ear is a very small area, air-filled cavity, basically petrous portion of temporal bone only. And it is lined by epithelium, is separated by external ear through tympanic membrane, because tympanic membrane is present in the at the end of your external ear and at the entry of your middle ear. So this tympanic membrane from the internal ear by a thin bony partition that contains two small membrane covered openings. Okay, now the oval window and the round window. See, there is two small membrane covered openings in the internal ear, that is called as the oval window and the round window. Okay, now extending across the middle ear and attached to it are ligaments are called the three smallest bones in the body. The three smallest bones in the body are present in ears. As we all know, the three small bones that is called as malleus, stapes and incus. These three smallest bones present, three in each ear. This smallest six bones in the ear, three in each ear in the this internal ear. So the extending across the middle ear and attached to it by ligaments are the three smallest bones in the body. The auditory ossicles, which are connected by synovial joints. Okay, the bones named for their shapes are the malleus, incus and stapes, commonly called as hammer, anvil and the stirrup. These three bones are also called as, like the malleus is called as the hammer. The handle of the malleus attaches to the internal surface of the tympanic membrane. Okay, the head of the malleus articulates with the body of the incus. The second bone which is the shape of anvil. Now the incus, the middle bone of in the series articulates with the head of the stapes. The base of the foot plate of the stapes fits into the oval window. Okay, in this way the three bones are attached to each other. Now Next is this base of footplate of this stepes is fits into the oval window. Directly below the oval window is another opening, the round window, which is enclosed by a membrane called secondary tympanic membrane. Now, here is the secondary tympanic membrane. This is all about the middle. These three bones, these three small bones are present in the middle ear of your auditory canal. Okay. Uh, so, these the malleus, incus, and the stapes is present in the middle ear. Now, besides the ligaments, two tiny skeletal muscles also attached to the ossicles. Which are these two tiny skeletal muscles? The tensor tympani, which is supplied by the mandibular branch of trigeminal, that is the fifth cranial nerve, and which limits movement and increase tension on the eardrum to prevent damage to the inner ear from the loud noises. So this tensor tympani, which is supplied by the mandibular branch of the fifth trigeminal nerve. Okay, so limits the movement and increase tension on the eardrum to prevent damage to the inner ear from loud noises. The stapedius muscle, which is this second muscle. Okay, one is the tensor tympani and the other is the stapedius muscle. So this which is supplied by the facial nerve. This stapedius is supplied by the facial nerve. Which is supplied by the facial nerve is the smallest skeletal muscle in the human body. Okay, this is the smallest muscle in the human body, the stapedius muscle. Okay, which is supplied by the facial nerve. By dampening large vibrations of the stapes due to loud noises, it protects the oval window, but it also decreases the sensitivity of hearing. Okay. Now, this vibrations of stapes due to loud noises protects the oval window, but it also decreases the sensitivity of the hearing. Okay. Now, for this reason, paralysis of stapedius muscle is associated with hyperacusia, which is the abnormal sensitive hearing. Okay. Hyperacusia is a condition in which there is the paralysis of stapedius muscle, and there is what you can say is this abnormal sensitive hearing. You can start hearing very low noises also, because it takes a fraction of second for the tensor tympani and stapedius muscle to contract. They can protect the inner ear from prolonged loud noises, and but not from brief ones such as of the gunshot. Okay, so this tympanic muscle you can say protects the louder noises, but for longer period of time, but for shorter period of time they can't do anything. Okay, now I'll switch to the diagram of this ear, so that you can see the external ear here. See the external ear, the pinna, which is the helix and lobule and auricle. Okay, and this external acoustic meatus. Okay, now there is three small bones you can see here. As you can see here, these are the three small bones, the malleus, incus, and the stapes. It is written here. Now, this is present in the middle ear. Okay, this blue color, as you can say, this is the tympanic membrane. This blue color membrane between the middle ear and the external ear. This is the tympanic membrane, and the cerumen and the wax is also, you can see from where we remove the wax. Okay, so this is the wax. External cartilage is there. This is the middle ear. Okay, so and this internal circular canal and the semicircular canal, the internal auditory pathway, this is all present in the middle ear. So here in the picture it is shown that the outer portion is the external ear, the middle ear is the blue portion is the middle ear, and the light peach portion is the circular canals. This is the internal ear. Okay, this is the internal ear. Here it is the, you can see this semicircular canal, the internal auditory canal, vestibulocochlear nerve, vestibular branch, cochlear branch. This is the external auditory canal. Now, next is the you can see the right ear of the auditory middle ear. See, here also orange is the external ear, blue is the middle ear, and inner is the light, which is the inner ear. Here you can see the small bones, how they are attached to each other. See, here they are attached to each other. The malleus, incus, and the stapes. This is the blue colored is the tympanic membrane, the कान का पर्दा जिसको हम कहते हैं. Okay. So here it is this. These are the membranes. Okay. What else is there in this picture is as you can see, this is the stapes, this is the incus, and this is the malleus. Then this one comes under the middle ear. Okay. Now next is the anterior ear. The next is the anterior wall of the middle ear contains an opening that leads directly into the auditory pterygotympanic tube known as the eustachian tube. Okay, this pterygotympanic tube is known as the eustachian tube. The auditory tube, which consists of both bone and elastic cartilage, connects the middle ear with the nasopharynx portion of the thorax. This you can see the anterior wall of the middle ear contains an opening that leads to directly into the auditory or the pharyngotympanic membrane. Okay. Now tube that is called as eustachian tube. The auditory tube, which consists of both bone and elastic cartilage, connects the middle ear with the nasopharynx. Okay. So that is the superior portion of the throat. It is normally closed at its middle pharyngeal end. During swallowing and yawning, it opens, allowing air to enter and leave the middle ear until the pressure in the middle ear equals the atmospheric pressure. Most of us have experienced our ears pooping on the pressure equalizers. When the pressure we are balanced, the tympanic membrane vibrates freely as sound waves strike. If the pressure is not equalized, intense pain, hearing impairment, ringing in the ears, and vertigo could develop. So this is all about the eustachian tube, and whatever the pressure is we feel in the ear, that equalizes. This is all you can say attached to your during swallowing and yawning, it opens and allowing the air to leave or enter or leave the middle ear until the pressure in the middle ear equals the atmospheric pressure. Now as you can say, see, when the pressure are balanced, the tympanic membrane vibrates freely as sound waves strike it. If the pressure is not equalized, then there is intense pain. This equalization of pressure is very important, because if it is not equalized, it may lead to vertigo, intense pain, hearing impairment, ringing in the rings, etc. The auditory tube also is a route of pathogens to travel from the nose and throat to the middle ear. So, the auditory tube is also the causing the most common type of ear infection called as the disorders or homeostatic imbalances. This is the otitis media. The common condition of the infection of ear is called as otitis media. Now, about the internal ear. This is about the middle ear. What is there in the middle ear? Now in the internal ear is also called as labyrinth because of its complicated series of canals. So internal ears basically consist of series of canals. That's why they are also called as the labyrinth. Structurally, it consists of two main divisions: an outer bony labyrinth that encloses an inner membranous labyrinth. It is like long balloons put inside a right tube, a rigid tube. Okay, this labyrinth is consists of two main divisions: an outer bony labyrinth, okay, and the inner membranous labyrinth. There is two labyrinths in the internal ear, two main divisions of internal ear: the outer bony, which is consists of bones, and the inner membranous. It is like long balloons put inside a rigid tube. The bony labyrinth is a series of cavities in the petrous portion of the temporal bone, divided into three main areas. Okay, this bony labyrinth is divided into three areas: the semicircular canals, the vestibule, and the cochlea. The three main portion of bony labyrinth is the circular canal, the vestibule, and the cochlea. Okay, the bony labyrinth is lined with periosteum and contains perilymph. This bony labyrinth contains the periosteum and the perilymph. Okay, this fluid, which is chemically similar to cerebrospinal fluid, surrounds the membranous labyrinth. Now, this fluid in the bony labyrinth, this perilymph, surrounds the membranous labyrinth. A series of epithelial sacs and tubes inside the bony labyrinth that have the same general form as the bony labyrinth and house the receptors for hearing and equilibrium. The epithelial membranous labyrinth contains the endolymph. So these are the various fluids which are present in the internal ear, which brings about the equilibrium in our body. So whenever there is infection or some portion, something wrong with your ears, you feel giddiness, vertigo. This is because the fluid, the level of this fluid is disturbed, this perilymph, endolymph. Okay, so this is very important for the equilibrium. Now, the level of potassium ions in endolymph is usually high for an extracellular fluid, and potassium ions play a role in the generation of auditory signals. Now, the vestibule is the oval central portion of the bony labyrinth. The membranous labyrinth is the vestibule, consists of two sacs called the utricle and the saccule. So these are the various parts of your internal ear, your bony labyrinth and your membranous labyrinth. Then there is in the bony labyrinth there is present the perilymph. In the membranous labyrinth there is the fluid which is present is called as the endolymph. Now this vestibule is an oval central portion of the bony labyrinth only. Okay, one more portion of the bony labyrinth is the vestibule. Now the membranous labyrinth in the vestibule consists of two sacs. There is two you can say some bags are present inside the membranous labyrinth that is called as the saccule. That is called the saccule. Now projecting superiorly and posteriorly, there is a form of vestibule and the semicircular canals, each of which lies at the approximately right angles to the other two. Okay, so the semicircular canals, each of which lies at approximately right angles to each other. Okay, based on their positions, they are named as the anterior, posterior, and lateral semicircular canals. There are three semicircular canals. Okay, based on their position where they are present, there is anterior semicircular canal, there is posterior semicircular canal, and there is lateral semicircular canal. So, are the vertically oriented anterior and posterior semicircular canals are vertically oriented, and the lateral one is horizontally oriented. Okay, end of each canal is swollen enlargement called as ampulla. Okay. At the end of each canal, there is a swollen environment, something round swollen is present, which is called as ampulla. And the portion of the membranous labyrinth that lie inside the bone semicircular canal are called the semicircular ducts. So there is semicircular canals, there is ampulla and the semicircular ducts. These structures connect the article to the vestibule. These two structures are connected by the semicircular ducts. Now, the vestibular branch of vestibular cochlear nerve consists of ampullary, auricular, and secular nerves. These nerves contain both first order sensory neurons and motor neurons that synapse with the receptor for equilibrium. Okay. Now, the first order sensory neurons carry sensory information from the receptors, and the motor neurons carry feedback signals to the receptors, apparently to modify their sensitivity. The cell bodies of the sensory neurons are called vestibular ganglia. Okay, so we'll study all this in the pics also. In the pictures, this all very clear, and you will be able to understand in a better manner. Now, the interior of the vestibular is the cochlea. Okay, in the interior to the vestibule is the cochlea, a bony spiral canal that resembles a snail's shell, and makes almost 3 turns around the central body core called this modulus. Okay, so there is the modulus is the this consists of 3 canals. It's like a shape of snail. There is a shape of circular rings in the snail. It is also present in this semicircular canal. Sections through the cochlea reveal that it is divided into 3 channels: cochlear duct, scala vestibuli, and scala tympani. The cochlear duct, scala media, is a continuation of the membranous labyrinth into cochlea, and it is filled with endolymph. The channel above the cochlear duct is the scala vestibuli, which ends at the oval window. Now, the channel below is the scala tympani, which ends at the round window, and the channel below is the scala tympani, which ends at the round window. Both the scala vestibuli and scala tympani are the part of bony labyrinth of the cochlea. Therefore, these chambers are filled with parallel. Okay, you will understand all this better in the pictures. Just listen to it once with what are the terms called as, and what are the various structures present in the inner ear, the internal ear, the innermost ear. What are the various structures present? You need to understand that. You need not to remember that, but you need to understand you should know the various terms which are present in the internal ear. The scala vestibuli and the scala tympani are completely separated by cochlear duct, except for an opening at the apex of the cochlea and the helicotrema. The cochlea adjoins the wall of the vestibule into which the scala vestibuli opens. The ferrule in the vestibule is continuous with that of the scapula. Okay, now this is the structure. Now these various structures, now you can understand this various structures, the semicircular canals and all. See, first you see this insert, then you will understand this is the insert of this light peach color as the this is the internal ear. Okay, this is the internal ear. Here you can see, we study it in detail here. See, the semicircular canals contain semicircular ducts. What are the semicircular ducts? Various ducts. These are the semicircular ducts: the anterior, the posterior, and the lateral. As the positions where they are present. Okay. Now, see, this is the what they are called as the ampulla, the swollen enlargements. Okay, these are the swollen enlargements. These are called as the ampulla. All the ampulla of the semicircular ducts everywhere. Okay. Then there is the vestibule. Here is the vestibule. This is the vestibule, and oval window. This is the oval window and the saccule. Okay, this is the saccule. Now, the ampulla round window here. Stipes in the oval window. Okay, this is, and this is the bony labyrinth. Here it is bony labyrinth. Okay, and you can say membranous labyrinth inside. Here it's a membranous labyrinth inside. Okay, and there is ampulla of the semicircular canal here. So semicircular canal, and this is, you see, cochlea. There is, this is the cochlea, the three rings like snail shaped rings. Okay, and there is you can see is the, this is the what you can see is here, this is the components of right internal ears, the cochlea and the cochlear ducts. These are the, these circular rings are the cochlear ducts. Okay, so these are the various canals and the various ducts are present here. Okay, now see, this is about the various structures of your ear. Okay, now as you can see, now we'll study the auditory. Now, as we have studied the external ear, the auricle, the acoustic meatus, the internal ear, the all tympanic membrane, and the all three bones, the malleus, stapes, and the incus. Then in the internal ear, the various semicircular canals, the cochlea, the membranous labyrinth, the perilymph. Okay, and this endolymph is present in these canals, and the vestibule, and the various other structures. They, okay, now there is what is the auditory pathway. Now auditory pathway, first see, we will study the auditory pathway. Now, bending of the stereocilia means how this auditory pathway takes the sound waves to the brain, how you understand the sound waves, auditory pathway, and the equilibrium. The two major function of ear is the hearing and the maintaining the equilibrium. Okay, so how they maintain the hearing, how the sound waves are conducted in the from the ear till brain through your auditory nerves, cranial nerve, auditory cranial nerve, and the equilibrium is maintained by the vestibulocochlear nerve. Okay, so first we'll study the auditory pathway. The bending of the stereocilia of the hairs of the spiral organ causes the release of neurotransmitter, probably glutamate, which generates nerve impulses in the sensory neurons that invade the hair cells. The cell bodies of sensory neurons are located in the spiral ganglia. The nerve impulses pass along the axons of these neurons, which form the cochlear branch of the vestibulocochlear, that is the 8th cranial nerve. Okay, this 8th cranial nerves take these sound waves to the brain. Now, these axons synapse with neurons in the cochlear nuclei in the medulla oblongata on the same side. Okay, some of the axons from the cochlear nuclei decussate, cross over in the medulla, and ascend in the ascending in the tract called the lateral meniscus on the opposite side. So some fibers will remain on the same side of this vestibulocochlear nerve, and some fibers decussate to the opposite side and as a lateral meniscus. Okay, and terminate in the inferior colliculus in the midbrain. Now, other axons from the cochlear nuclei and in the superior olivary nucleus, okay, in the bones on each side, as the superior olivary nucleus is present in the bones, the bones part of the brainstem. Okay, so this is present there in the superior olivary nucleus. Slight differences in the timings of the nerve impulses arriving from the two ears at the superior olivary nuclei allow us to locate the source of a sound. Axons from this. Now, how we get where the sound is coming. So the two ears at the superior, the nerve impulses arriving from the two ears at the superior olivary nuclei allow us to locate the source of the sound from where the sound is coming. Okay, we can locate this area of the sound. The axons from superior olivary nuclei also ascend in the lateral meniscus tracts on both the sides and in the inferior collicula. From each inferior collicular, nerve impulses are conveyed to the medial geniculate nucleus in the thalamus and finally to the primary auditory area of the cerebral cortex in the temporal lobe of the cerebrum. Because many auditory axons decussate in the medulla while others remain on the same side. The right and left primary auditory areas receives nerve impulses from both the ears. So this is basically the auditory pathway from where the sound waves are coming, and then how it is taking this sound waves to the primary auditory area of the cerebral cortex. So you can see in this from the internal ear, as you can see, this nerve is, see, the nerve is taking from this vestibulocochlear nerve. Some fibers remains on the same side. Okay, now I can change the color of this, and some fibers decussate to the opposite side. Okay, and they are present in the geniculate body. Okay, see, some fibers decussate and some fibers remain on the same side. Now, there's various inferior colliculus in the midbrain, lateral menisci, superior olivary nucleus in the bones and the cerebellum. This is the areas. You can see the inferior, the various parts with the superior olivary nucleus in the bones. See, this is the superior olivary nucleus in the bones. Okay, the lateral menisci. Okay, and there is the inferior colliculus in the midbrain. This is the inferior colliculus, and the primary auditoria in the cerebral cortex. Here is the primary auditory area in the cerebral cortex. Okay, so this is the pathway of sound waves. Okay, the auditory part. Now, next is the physiology of equilibrium. How the ear maintains equilibrium or the balance in the body. Okay, now next is physiology of equilibrium. Now, there are two types of equilibrium or balance. The static equilibrium refers to the maintenance of position of the body, mainly the head relative to the force of gravity. Okay, body movements that stimulate that receptor from static equilibrium include tilting of the head and the linear acceleration or deceleration, such as when the body is being moved in an elevator or in a car that is speeding up or slowing down. So there is a linear acceleration and deceleration, that is the static equilibrium. Okay, there are two types of equilibrium, the static and the dynamic. Okay, so there is static like linear acceleration like in car or in the elevators or lifts when we go in the multi-stories and all. Okay, so that is the maintenance of the static equilibrium. Now the dynamic equilibrium is the maintenance of body position, mainly the head, in response to the sudden movements such as the rotational acceleration or deceleration. Collectively, receptor organs for equilibrium are called the vestibular apparatus. These include the sacule, article and the semicircular ducts. Whatever we studied in the internal ear portion, the vestibular apparatus, the sacule, the article and the semicircular ducts, that brings about the dynamic equilibrium when the body is in the motion. The maintenance of body position or head in response to sudden movements or rotational or auxiliary. Rotational acceleration is In static equilibrium there is linear acceleration and deceleration or deceleration, and in dynamic equilibrium there is rotational acceleration or deceleration, as we saw in the swings. When we go to the swings, then there is the this type of pathways. Okay, now see the equilibrium pathways. Bending of hair bundles of the hair cells in the semicircular ducts, utricle or secule, causes the release of a neurotransmitter, probably glutamate, which generates nerve impulses in the sensory neurons that innervate the hair cells. The cell bodies of the sensory neurons are located in the vestibular ganglia. Nerve impulses pass along the axons of these neurons, which form the vestibular branch of vestibular cochlear or the eighth nerve. Most of these axons synapse with the sensory neurons in the vestibular nuclei, the major integrating centers of the equilibrium in the medulla oblongata and the pons. I will make you understand this through, let's listen to it first, then I'll make it understand you this through the picture, so that you'll be understand in a better manner how these pathways are going. Okay, so nerve impulses pass along the axons of these neurons, which form the vestibular branch of vestibular cochlear nerve. Most of these axons synapse with the sensory neurons in the vestibular nuclei and the major integrating centers of for the equilibrium in the medulla oblongata and pons. The vestibular nuclei also receive input from the eyes and proprioceptors, especially proprioceptors in the neck and limb muscles that indicate the position of the head and the limbs. The remaining axons enter the cerebellum through the cerebral peduncles. Okay, now this is all about the various auditory pathway from which the axons are passing. See, now you can see the summary of the structure of the ears. The summary of the structure of the ears is like external ear, region of the ear and the key structures. The external outer ear is this auricle pinna, collects sound waves. External auditory canal or meatus direct the sound waves, and tympanic membrane or eardrum that surround the sound waves are caused into the vibrate, which is the in turn causes malleus to vibrate. Okay, now middle ear, auditory ossicles transmit and amplify vibrations from tympanic membrane to the oval window. Auditory eustachian tube equalizes the air pressure on both the sides of the tympanic membrane. This is the middle ear is formed by the auditory ossicles and the auditory or the eustachian tube. See, the eustachian tube is also connected to your oral cavity. Now the internal ear is, this is the internal ear. Internal ear is contains a series of fluids and channels and membranes that transmit vibrations to the spiral organs or organ of corti. The organ of hearing, hair cells in the spiral organ produce receptor potentials which elicit nerve impulses in the cochlear branch of the vestibular eighth nerve. Vestibular apparatus includes the semicircular ducts, utricle and the secule, which separates the nerve impulses and that propagate along the vestibular branch of the vestibular cochlear nerve. It brings about the equilibrium. Okay. Now the semicircular ducts contain cristae, the site of hair cells of dynamic equilibrium of the body position, maintain mainly the head in response to the rotational acceleration and the deceleration movements. Utricle contains macula, site of the hair cells for the static equilibrium, maintains the body position in the linear head in the relative to the force of gravity. And secule contains the macule, site of hair cells for static equilibrium, maintains the body position mainly the head relative to the force of gravity. So this is the basically all the structures, and then how they maintain the equilibrium and how they take the this sound waves